everybody. Our guest today is Corina Bartoli. She is an entrepreneur, young, beautiful, and tall entrepreneur, the co-founder and CEO of CocoRio, a company in parent tech industry, which is, I guess, transforming childcare industry.
That's right.
You have some completely new look on that industry right now. And she's also a winner of multiple awards, including Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. And one small fact that I just learned, she's also an ex-model. And it's really impressive, like going from modeling into entrepreneurship. So we're going to learn her story today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming, Corina. Please, yes, start with your introduction and introduction of your companies.
Sure. So yeah, essentially you've already introduced us pretty well, but I've been working on CocoRio since 2019 with my co-founder, and effectively launched it in 2020. So now quite a while, but it feels like a lot longer than that. It feels like it's been a long time. CocoRio matches families and businesses with creative professionals, so musicians, actors, dancers, essentially as inspiring nannies and mentors for the children. So very bright what you just said. You know, it doesn't sound like your average nanny or average sort of childcare provider. So that's what we've been doing. And we've tested it as manually as we could for the past 3 years. And very recently launched our self-service platform, which is essentially going to let us continue to grow and scale the business. Because right now we've been sort of London-based. And myself, my own background, so I grew up in Italy. I moved to London to study drama when I was 18, and then essentially just worked a lot in the arts and creative industries, from being a model to working in theaters, doing a lot of acting. I also was a child singer as a kid. So
wow,
basically I've explored
new,
so many.
Yeah, exactly. New talents are coming and coming. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, in essence, I've kind of experienced the creative industries from all sides, and then kind of entered the arts management route. So done a lot of operations and finance for arts organizations in London, before then coming together with my co-founder and thinking, you know what, this is a good idea. We should absolutely launch CocoRio.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a fresh look on childcare. You are not connecting just nannies, but you're connecting also creative people with children. I mean, you are connecting with parents, actually, to look after children. You also mentioned that it has some social aspect to this as well, because it helps maybe underemployed creative people to earn extra money if, for example, they like spending time with children. Yeah. It is completely, a new area of employment for them.
Yeah, it's a really sort of impact-focused business, and it's not really the sort of route that we initially thought. Like, we sort of didn't think of all the benefits that we were actually creating until we actually realized we were creating all these benefits. We literally just thought, this is a great idea. We were basically nannies ourselves when we were creative students, and we just got amazing feedback from families. And the more we sort of talked about this, the more everyone said this is a genius idea. But we never really thought about the true impact that we were actually delivering in all three spaces. So one is obviously the children themselves. Well, if the alternative is to be stuck in front of an iPad or with a person who doesn't even look at you in the eyes, doesn't engage with you, just sits there, makes sure that you're fed and go to bed, sure, that's a little bit more boring, but it's also not really stimulating the child to actually develop as they should. So with CocoRio, you're actually looking at the child's overall well-being today and their development. So it's really good for their future life skills too. And at the same time, families not only are actually finding someone who's engaging, right? Because that's sort of the alternative, you know, that usual nanny who sits on their phone in front of the TV, right? But it's not even that. It's also the fact that the childcare industry is not really like catering for flexible hours or with a high quality. So if you want like a last minute babysitter or someone flexible hours, you either need to employ someone full time and then only use them part time as and when you need them, which is very faffy and expensive and not very convenient. But also then then you can just book a last minute babysitter who's just a random person, really. So what we do is kind of like meet the real family's needs today, not like 50 years ago, and actually look at how do families work right now. You know, they're doing flexible work from home. Lots of them are very busy and traveling, and both parents are working nowadays a lot of the time. So we're really like catering for that modern family that the rest of the industry just doesn't seem to look at for some reason. And then on the creative side, their alternative to get work is essentially, if they want it to be flexible and also paid well, really there's only a hospitality and retail, because if you become a teacher, for example, then it's not very flexible, but it is meaningful and it's fulfilling. And so what we do is we essentially offer the flexibility and the kind of
both sides.
Yeah, and they love that. They need that. And you know what it is that they love about CocoRio is that it's meaningful work where they feel inspired by the kids. They feel like they're making a difference. Because ultimately they're not allowed to do that if they fold clothes in a shop. You know, it's a different type of job. It's still flexible, but it doesn't give them that like extra thing that's fulfilling to them. So yeah, it's a nice combination of benefits for everybody.
Wow, that's, well, you see, now you've even uncovered, I guess, something else. I mean, just not just the economic benefits, but as well as like personal growth, maybe, or impact. Like social impact benefits as well. But your background isn't actually in that has nothing to do with children's industry or maybe pedagogy or anything. You studied arts, and I saw that you were also, I don't know, maybe in theater, right?
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with, I don't know, with kids, with children.
No.
How did you end up in this? And how your maybe background actually affected your business now? But it's, you know, it seems a little fuzzy. How the connection?
It is not straightforward. You're absolutely right. So yeah, my undergraduate degree was in drama. So I was just following on from what I've been doing when I was younger. So I've done a lot of like singing and acting as a kid myself. And I absolutely loved studying drama, but that's where I sort of started having lots of different jobs and working different productions and sort of producing shows and working backstage. And I was like, okay, you know what I really enjoy is delivering these workshops for kids, for example. So I've done a lot of that. Again, it wasn't really like my main job. I did a lot of little things.
Okay, but you did still work with kids.
I did. And I basically like did what all our creatives now do, which is looked after the children using my creative skills. And by doing that, I was just so rewarded and so fulfilled. And I didn't want that to be my full-time job, but I sort of really found fulfillment in that. And then that's where I sort of met my co-founder during our master's in agricultural management, because I basically went in and thought, well, I want to kind of look at the back, you know, sort of what happens at the back of theatre. I don't really want to like become an actor. I really want to kind of produce shows and really make things happen and work in arts organizations and kind of really understand the business side. And again, I was kind of really interested in things that had to do with children, not because I necessarily had like so much sort of previous experience, but because my master's actually taught me a lot about the theory of creativity and the benefits of creativity. So I've learned like how important it is, you know, how amazing it is that kids are naturally creative, and then we sort of lose that.
Exactly, yeah. When kids, if you leave them alone, they kind of imagine things, and whenever they're drawing something completely different. But we kind of draw up these limitations. Okay, no, this is not the right way. This is the right way. So they kind of lose that side, maybe like that imaginative, creative side.
Yeah, like schools, I think schools are actually unfortunately doing a lot of that, sort of constraining kids into a box, while actually the beauty for children is to be able to like express themselves with no limits. And so their imagination is able to problem solve so much better than ours. And I just thought, this is great for business, because if we're all as creative as a child, actually we'll be such better business people. And I started to think, wow, all these qualities of creativity, you know, like studying the theory of creativity in such a like theoretical way, they actually can inspire a whole method of like working with children, of also like basically creating new generations of people that are more creative, more problem solving, more adaptable and flexible, which is ultimately what, the skills that everyone needs in a world where things are changing so quickly. There's a lot of uncertainty. How do we prepare, a future generation? So that's always really inspired me and kind of stayed at the background, if you like.
Okay, so this was actually the foundation for building this business. Okay, you mentioned that you met your co-founder, so I guess that's where everything began, right? The beginnings of any businesses are very interesting because there are some kind of course, struggles, and at the same time very creative solutions because all the, for example, most of the time because of financial constraints. So can you tell us the beginning of the business? How did you come up with the idea, or maybe it came up gradually? How did it begin?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my co-founder Leah, she had her own company set up, which at the time was called Toddler Tunes, and it was essentially just her own company to be a musical babysitter herself. So she had the same background I had, just as a musician, as a classical singer, and so she looked after kids as a kind of part-time job, but saw that families really liked her musical approach. So she just had that going on, and when I met her, I just thought, yeah, that's a good idea. That's what I'm doing. But I didn't think it was a genius, innovative idea at all, because I was also doing it, right? So I never really thought too much of it. And then we did our master's degree, and then a few years later, after we'd kind of got work experience elsewhere, she said, look, I think we really should make this work. We should really turn this into a business. So let's research the market and, all of it. And she entered us into an accelerator program at Bayes Business School. And so every Saturday morning we'd go to these classes, and I missed all of them because I was working at a theater at the time. So I was working on Saturdays. So I eventually go once. Let's say it's the 10th session. So, everyone knows my co-founder, but no one knows me. And I do this session, and everyone's like, oh my God, this idea is so genius. You should definitely make it work. Yeah, the feedback that we kept getting was so good. And I was like, wait a second, maybe this has got some legs, And so we spent all our evenings and weekends together, really working on the idea of making it from a sort of little idea, which was the musical babysitting, into a generally creative approach to childcare in the home, and really look at the market and create a business plan. And by the end of the accelerator, we had a business plan and we pitched to investors, and they were literally like, okay, so where do I book? And we're like, okay, so we must make this happen. And so I didn't think too much of it, and we just recruited. Basically, we put an ad out for our first creative nannies. For a week, we kept the ad out. It was a free ad. We got over 100 really good applications, and we interviewed the best 25. And so that's how CocoRio was born. And we had nothing. We both had a full-time job at the time. We had so much else going on, but we just thought the idea is so good, we must give it a chance. And so we started with our network of people that wanted to give feedback. And some of these creative nannies that we recruited then are still with us today, which is amazing. And so, yeah, that's how it started. And we raised a sort of friends and family round to get us to essentially focus more on the business and start playing around with tech and marketing and really get some traction. And so we started selling straight away.
All right, great. You said, okay, you did raise something for your business. Can you give us a little more information on that? How was the experience? Did you raise only the friends and family, or did you go beyond it? For example, if you raised from VCs, which VCs you targeted, or which VCs were interested in, in your business, because your business is quite niche. It's not, as you said yourself, it's not SaaS or B2B or AI.
It's not. It's a very clunky business because there's humans involved and because there's children. So it scares people off so much. So for us, we've kind of seen that we're in the middle of lots of different sectors. So one is just impact, and I think it's probably the best sector for us because it means that people really care about what we're doing, no matter the fact that there's children involved and real people involved. And actually, maybe they actually like that there is an impact on these people. The other sectors that we've looked at were really just future of work, because we are creating a new way to work. But again, I think they're looking at much higher populations, and so the population of creatives, although it is big and considerable in cities like London, it feels like a little flimsy because we're creating something that's like a second job to them, which I think is so important. And everyone working in the creative industries will say the same. But because this is their side job, then it's not the most important part of future of work. And then the third one would be ed tech, because there's a little bit of educational element in it. But again, ed tech, a lot of it is B2B SaaS or SaaS. And we're not really that, we're really in person. So they were kind of pushing us to, but then you should go online. And you know what, actually, I love that idea, maybe as a kind of other branch of the business at some point, but our main core business is the in-person creative childcare. So overall, we've spoken to lots of people, so friends and families, angels, VCs, family offices, and we've raised 50K initially as friends and family, and then 250 as pre-seed. And then
from
we've
VC?
done a mix of angels.
Okay.
So we haven't actually raised from VCs yet.
Right.
Now we're raising 800K, so we've got a sort of seed round going, and we have some interesting VCs or just funds in general that are interested, and they're usually the impact focused ones. So that's really where we're aiming. There's also just general consumer services that we kind of appeal to. We are ultimately a consumer, you know, we are consumer services, but again, the fact that there's kids involved and real people to that level is a little bit off-putting to them. So I think it will require time to change what this sector looks like, because the rest of childcare, as you said, is, you know, is not a sector that's been updated. Probably. So unfortunately, a lot of the things that people think straight away when they think childcare are actually quite negative, which is a shame. So we're trying to change that.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, do you have like already a plan when you want to close the round?
Yeah, so because we've just launched our platform, we really want to gain a little bit more traction with that. But we're kind of, you know, dipping our toes in and seeing who's interested and who we can start having conversations with. So we think by like the spring, we definitely want it closed. So by like winter time, we want to go fully in the round. But we're really looking at like finding a really good investor as opposed to just getting the money sooner, perhaps not with someone who's a great fit, because ultimately for us, like we really just want someone who resonates with the business and really wants to see us grow in the direction that we want to grow, as opposed to just change us business completely.
Yeah, like it's just the commercial or money based. All right.
Yeah.
So, are you already like taking, what kind of actions you're taking right now to raise? I mean, are you reaching out, or are you going to pitch competitions, or what are you doing now?
A little bit of both. Again, kind of softly. I could spend more time and more like direct focus, but yeah, we have done a little bit of that in the past few months. So re-warmed up a few conversations that we had initially, or just like started overall like new conversations. We have an investor newsletter that goes out every month, so we're kind of keeping people interested. We're just asking for introductions and just meeting people up. We did enter the Santander X Awards again this year, which is a pitching competition. We got selected, but then unfortunately we didn't go through the next round, which is a shame. But we love pitching, like I absolutely love pitching. So
do you pitch yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Very good.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
I think we will be asking for support, I guess, from you.
Absolutely.
All right. Just, you already have an experience of fundraising, and I'm sure your position right now is way more stronger, and that's why closing this round will be easier for you. So, what was like a very prominent lesson that you learned from like your past fundraising experience that helped you like really raise?
Oh, there's so many of them. I would say like the biggest one maybe is like to have confidence in yourself, especially if someone's quite young and maybe like a woman or someone who's generally unrepresented. So you don't look like the typical investor, then you're going to have trouble. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So, if you look a bit different from the investors in front of you, they may require a bit more convincing, and that's not fair, but it is what it is.
But it is what it is, yeah.
So you gotta like learn to kind of work with it. And I don't think that trying to be different helps, because you're forcing something. So it's really like tapping into what is your authenticity. And if you are in a conversation with someone who doesn't get it, it's fine. Just drop it.
Yeah, drop it. Go to the next one.
If you have a funny feeling or you're not connecting with someone, there is no point in trying to convince them or push this to happen. You're not desperate for money. You want money from someone who is able to understand you and make you, help you grow, right? So for me, it was really about, okay, how do I like influence people? How do I influence upwards? Have these conversations, ask people questions so that they understand who I am, but also, they don't just see me as someone asking for money, but I'm actually engaging with them, learning more about them. You want to make sure that they are the right fit for you, as opposed to just you're the right fit for them. So, not begging, although, you may be young and think, wow,
so
this
you
is
need
amazing.
to also have your standards.
Yes. And also like kind of, it's a funny business that of, VCs and investors. It's not always like the most pleasant situation, but you can learn so much. And after every meeting, you would have learned more. Right? And you'll know your numbers so well. You'll know your business and your industry better than anyone else. So you don't need to doubt yourself when you go into one of those meetings, because ultimately they will know less than you. You just need to make sure that you're good at explaining them. So just keep it cool and just be yourself, which I think it's such a stupid piece of advice, but I really can't stress it enough. Like, being yourself is really probably the only way.
Well, yeah, it's a new piece of advice actually for us.
Great.
That I've heard from other founders.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I'm glad.
All right. So, at what stage your company is right now? You started in 2020 officially, right?
Yeah.
So, where are you right now? You can disclose numbers if you can.
Yeah.
Like number of customers, number of users, and maybe like revenue, or you are planning to raise.
Yeah, sure. So families have loved us throughout the years. Like, we've got really good feedback. So we've got over 2,000 customers and over 900 creatives recruited to date.
Customers.
Yeah.
2,000 families.
Yeah, 2,000 families, almost 1,000 creatives recruited. We've got about 400 that are actually available and ready to work every single day. And then we also have basically generated £750,000 in revenue to date. So
this year,
overall. So this year we've been growing quite a lot. So this year we're on track to hit almost 600 actually.
Oh, really? So the last year was your most productive year, you can say.
Yeah, we've been growing month on month by almost 28% on average.
Wow, nice.
Which is great. And obviously, there's been a little bit of up and down and a few down seasons, but overall we've been growing and building on top of the customers, because what we offer really is something that is very sticky. And so once we make a really good match, like the family and the creative stay with us, so for us that's really the goal, to make a really good match and then be able to keep this family for years really. So lifetime value is really high, and we've really mastered our sort of cost to acquire customers, and it's going low. So we're just working on those metrics really to just make them as best as we can.
Amazing. Well, I think if, for example, I guess you've been growing your customer base for 3-4 years, and now you're seeing already these results in this year, and having more and more customers, of course it's spreading. If families I'm sure they are recommending your services to them. Yeah,
I think that's the beauty of it. With a company like this, what you want is to create a feeling of word of mouth, although that may not be true. It may not be real word of mouth. It may be that someone's heard it from somebody else or has seen it on an ad. They don't really know, but it creates that feeling of word of mouth, which conveys trust. So if you are working with something educational or children related, you do want people to really think of you as a trusted brand. And if you're a small company and a small brand, the only way to do it is to really convey that word of mouth feeling and really be everywhere, be in every community, every place where parents talk and ask for support. And that obviously just takes a while, but ultimately, it's always the same. It's always the same places. You get into those environments and then you're not sort of leaving it. So yeah, it's been interesting to really grow this organically step by step, because you really see that work and you see that day where people start knowing who you are and what the business does, and everything starts to shift. You go from being kind of unknown little idea to, oh, now people know what we do and they think it's a thing, which is great.
Great progress. Well, let's say so far, I mean, you were talking about your business, and it seems like you've had like an easy journey, you know. But I'm sure it wasn't like that.
No.
So, what were the most like challenging moments in the business, and how did you get through them, and what helped you to help you stay in the business and just continue rather than leave?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Look, there have been a lot of these moments. Like, I know it all looks like sunshine and rainbows, but it really isn't the case. I would say the first one was with COVID, because we just launched, just raised investment, and we're ready to go. And we had to basically from one day to the next decide that we were going to pivot to try and make some, to try and work with some customers and offer like online support for homework, which is very different from creative childcare. But we did it because you know what? Everything that comes up is an opportunity. So even if it's a problem to what you're doing today, it's going to be your opportunity to learn something. So I've always tried to have that mindset, which really helps, right? And I would say the toughest things that have happened have probably had to do with wrong hires. And this is something that, will eventually happen because no one is perfect, especially if you've not done this before. You may think you need someone who has a certain experience as opposed to who has that flexibility and adaptability skills. And you think you need someone who's amazing at skill A. Well, actually, if you're a startup, you just need someone who gets that it's a startup. So you just need that flexibility, adaptability, problem solving. You don't want to get stuck with like specific roles. And I think running a startup like a sort of established business is very problematic because people will then not be flexible to change and to deliver different things. And as a founder or manager, you can spend like so many hours a week just managing a team, and you want to get results out of it. You want to make sure that you're inspiring them and they're the right people on the bus. And I think I've heard this so many times from other founders as well. It's really hard, to make your first few hires. And I think if you do make a mistake, it's okay. But you need to make sure then you surround yourself by people that think like your startup. They don't necessarily just see this as a job, because it is going to change. Like every 3 months, their job is probably going to look different, right? And you just want that. So inspiring people to be flexible as opposed to this is their role, and trusting that it's going to work because none of their fault, but it's going to change. And you just want that skill.
Oh, okay. So flexibility and adaptability. That's what helped you?
Yeah, and I would say I would call it like creative problem solving, really people who see problems as a positive, as an opportunity. Okay, as an opportunity. You know what I mean? Yes. Because if you're looking at a day, you've got like 10 problems, they're not all tragedies, they're all amazing opportunities to learn something. And of course, if you keep making the same mistake over and again, that's not great. You probably should do better. But if it's a new problem every time, then it's a new opportunity to learn.
Yeah, definitely. Right. If something is not going right for a long time, it means that you have to change.
Yeah.
That you have to change approach.
And you can also spot that in advance. Yeah, you can almost like, I do this like little tool where every day, if I spot something that could be improved, that hasn't had a negative impact yet, it's sort of a good day, because it means that I've sort of been able to like be forward thinking without the problem having arisen yet. So I really recommend that sort of mindset.
Very good. Thank you. So you have a co-founder. Yeah. And co-founder is one of the like crucial parts of any business. So what would you say is that keeps you together? Do you have some kind of a dynamic work that works for you? And again, what is it between you, your relationship, let's say, that keeps you working together, like keeps you working in peace?
Yeah, it's a great question. So right now my co-founder is also our chair of the board, and she's very much involved in the strategy, overall strategy of the business. She's not involved in the day-to-day. And that actually really helps because we have very different like vision of the business. I see the day-to-day like constantly, like the nitty-gritty stuff, and she sees like things with a little bit of a different perspective. But even when she was involved with the day-to-day, things were we always had a different perspective on things, and I think that's because we have different skills, we think differently, and that really, really helps. And we trust in each other that we're both going to, because we love the business so much and we've put all our efforts, we've sacrificed so much of our lives, and we really respect that of each other, the fact that, you know, we know that we're not the only one who's sacrificed themselves, also the other person has given their all, whatever that looks like. We know that this person is going to have the businesses back, and really look at like what's best for the business, because we just care so much. And I think that builds over time. Of course, at the beginning, you know, you haven't been in the journey for long enough to know, but when you are in the journey together, you know exactly what you've gone through, you believe in the business in the same way, you have the same vision, then no matter what happens, you're going to be able to lift each other up. And for me, she's been the biggest emotional support, even like letting alone like, you know, the actual issues in the business or like things that you need to work on. The fact that you have someone else to go to and just share whatever it is that you're facing in the business right now is going to be a massive help.
I see. Okay, nice. Trust and support as is needed in every, I guess, like fundamental relationship. Okay, great. Now, I'm really curious. Of course, you mentioned it before the podcast, but I think it's going to be a very interesting facts or interesting experience of yours to share about your modeling. You said, you modeled and now you are a businesswoman. It's quite a transition. Can you tell us a little about your modeling experience? How was it? Did you like it? Why did you leave? Why did you leave it? From the outside, of course, we see it as like, wow, glamorous. So you get to like wear like beautiful stuff. You get to travel. You get to meet a lot of other beautiful people.
Yeah. To be fair, that is all true to some extent, but not fully. So my experience was I was very young when I started, and so then it was an amazing way for me to make new friends, to live in the world of the adults, to grow up fast. When I moved to London, I didn't know anyone, but because I was modeling, I basically got invited to all these events, and then I made lots of friends. You know, I didn't feel like a student who was kind of like just staying in their dorm. You know, I had a much cooler life, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I really enjoyed like learning what that was, you know, how to do modeling, you know, how to be the best at the jobs and like meet new people and be creative. And that's what I've always really loved, that you could be quite creative in the jobs, especially in London. But that isn't always the case. And I think sometimes the model is the least creative person in a job,
because they tell you what to do and
you
do that.
Right.
They tell you what to wear and you wear that.
Right. And that's okay to some extent, as long as you're respected as a human person. And I think growing up at the beginning, I was very much just willing to just do anything and kind of like a yes person, you know, because I was like learning. But then sometimes you realize, oh, actually, they should allow me to have a break. They should allow me to go to the bathroom. They should allow me to eat some food during 12 hours of work. You know, it's a little bit inhumane. So when you're not treated like a human, I think that can feel really difficult and physically demanding, you know, because you're standing in the cold for super long hours, or you're standing in the heat in a queue for super long, and then no one really looks after you. And I think because I've always tried to connect with people, to like learn from them and like build connections, and also like I spoke Italian, French, and English, so wherever I went, basically like fashion capitals, I could kind of speak with them and understand them. But a lot of people like talked sort of at you, you know, because a lot of models are foreigners and they don't speak the language.
They don't speak the language.
So they don't even engage with you because they assume you won't understand. And I found that really alienating. You know, I was like, oh, this is a shame. Like, I really want to have a job where I can sort of collaborate as opposed to just be told what to do. And I was just a bit tired of it. People didn't treat me very well at some point. I was just like, you know what, I'm too old for this. It's not going to be fun for me. So yeah, I've always basically like, you know, do I do this full time or do I explore other avenues? And I just thought, you know what, I'm really enjoying these sort of events management and arts management side. And that's when I started my master's and kind of then left modeling behind. I still do a few like little jobs for some designers that I really love. Like I recently worked for Vin and Omi.
Which one?
In September, Vin and Omi. They're an incredible designer duo. They do like sustainable fashion. It's a wonderful show. It was their anniversary show. It was just so fun. But yeah, again, it's just for friends.
All right, great. So we have a new rubric in our podcast, which we call Behind the Biz. We learned a lot about your business, but I have quick questions to know you a little better.
Sure.
So you moved from Italy to London.
Yeah.
What do you like the most about London?
I think it's the multicultural element. The fact that you're free to be whoever you are. Everyone's different. People come from different places. They wear different things. There's no just one way to be. Okay. And I feel really free, and I love that.
Oh, that's amazing. What is one food that you could always eat?
Sushi.
Sushi, really?
I'm obsessed. I don't know why. Honestly, I could literally eat it every meal and I would not get tired.
All right. So what is one activity that helps you rewind? I mean, that helps you get energy?
Yeah, so it depends, like what's the weather or the situation. If it's a sunny day, just be in the sunshine, like go for a walk, or like, you know, if I'm on the beach, just be on the beach, you know, whatever it is with sunshine.
Okay.
If it's not sunny, then just playing with my cat.
Oh, really? You have a cat?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
He's really fluffy. He's a ragdoll. He's really funny. And yeah, I just have the best time.
Okay, great. If you had to read only one book for the rest of your life, which book would it be?
This is very difficult because I read a lot of non-fiction, but I don't think I could read a lot of non-fiction for the rest of my life. So I think I would say the Odyssey.
Odyssey?
Yeah, because it's like the epitome of the journey, you know. It's like so adventurous and so well beautifully written, and it's just really magical. I think like mythology and like that sort of type of epic book is like the foundation for all the fantasy books that we have now. So if you have to pick one, I'd definitely say the Odyssey.
Okay, great. So what would you say one trait or one characteristic of yours that played the biggest role in your success or in your career?
Think that I'm very stubborn. I just don't give up.
Stubborn.
Yeah,
okay,
I think that's very helpful for business.
All right. Yeah,
I don't give up.
This is one of like, without this, that you shouldn't go into business. No, I guess, right?
No, because you need to really keep going. I think when people say, "Oh, a lot of startups fail," why are you not going to fail? I'm like, because I'm not going to fail, because I decided I'm not going to fail.
Okay.
I think that's literally it. You just got to stay for longer than you think you can handle, and then you'll just be through any problems. Right? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. So what is one critical lesson that you learned from building CocoRio?
I've learned so many lessons. I would say one is just really the connection element, right? That when you're doing something right, all the sort of connections that you have to yourself, to other people, to your environment are kind of happening organically. I know this sounds very like woo-woo, but in essence, if you're doing something that the world needs, you will feel more connected. You will build more connections, more relationships. People will kind of use it. It will make sense. So you can feed back. Basically, you can know whether what you're doing is working by seeing the effect on you and your relationships. And I think it may take a while, but you are part of an environment. You know, we're not individuals in this world, and business is very much like intertwined with people's connections. It's people's jobs, it's people's services. And so when you're doing something positive, there will be positive feedback. So you will not sort of do something just for the sake of it. People will tell you that you're doing it right. People will hear about it. People will encourage you. And I think it's that interconnectedness that I've started to listen to a lot more to see whether what I'm doing is actually aligned or not, which I think all entrepreneurs should really try to listen to, because sometimes it can be very difficult to know, is this right? Is this, you know, and sometimes it's just being connected to yourself. If there's a gut feeling that says, you know what, that's not what my business should look like, it should look like this instead, just follow that, because you're going to provide more value to other people as well. I don't know if I've expressed that correctly.
Well, I think I understood. Well, so I think the message is that create value for others, and it will connect you. It will make you more connected to this world and to other people, and follow your own gut. Like, feel it.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think your gut wants you to create value in your way, right? Everyone's different. Everyone's got a different way to provide value. So yeah, just find that, follow it, lean into it, and then everything will kind of fall into place. I know it sounds very simplistic, but it does.
I'm sure it does. Okay, we're done for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is it, yeah. We had Corina Bartoli with us, and if you have any questions to Corina, we will include her details down below. I mean, can they ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just reach out wherever. I'm a little bit slow on LinkedIn, but we'll pop other details and they can definitely reach out.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.